Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Bird. I'm like, I don't know where you're going to sit. How are you doing, sir?
I am well.
So, I have a million questions for you. I've wished this panel to go like 3 hours. But listen, before we get started, thanks to my friend Jeff, who is an amazing editor, we have a little bit of a sizzle reel for Brad, and I don't think you've seen this, so let's play the sizzle.
And so I was really happy on the next project, The Incredibles, it got marketed. Yeah, and it made a difference, you know? But I can't really complain about it because people did catch up to Iron Giant. And I think they ran it for a couple of years. They ran it all day around Thanksgiving, like 24 hours, like one after another. And I think that was the thing that kind of broke through, is that people ran into it that hadn't seen it before.
How difficult was it to persuade a studio that an animated movie could deal seriously with fear, death, weapons, and personal choice?
Well, I would love to say, they didn't get it, man, but they did get the pitch. When I came in there and I read the book, which I thought was really poetic, but about halfway through the book, it becomes a contest between the Iron Giant and this space back the size of Australia, and they fly back and forth into the sun, essentially. And I felt like the story is with the boy and the giant. But when I came back and I said, I like this a lot, but I want to do something different with it, I said, what if a gun had a soul and didn't want to be a gun? And to their credit, the people running the studio at the time, that got them, and they reacted to it, and they were taken by it. And that's not the usual subject for an animated, film.
Jumping into The Incredibles. Your resume is not bad. Pixar's early films leaned on cute characters. The Incredibles was your first attempt at photorealistic humans in CG. How much resistance did you get to that pivot?
Well, I wouldn't call them photorealistic because Bob's hands are like the size of trees and his feet are tiny. So it's very caricatured, but there weren't a lot of successful examples of human characters. There were like really disturbing versions of human characters back then. I mean, even Pixar did a short called Tin Toy that had a nightmare baby in it. And everybody who worked on it also goes, yeah, the baby was kind of a nightmare. So nobody's kidding themselves, but there was only one great example when I got there, and that was Jan Pinkova's short called Jerry's Game. It won the Oscar. Yeah. So I was convinced that you could do really compelling, stylized characters and make them very believable. And his old man that plays chess against himself showed up in Toy Story 2 and really worked well. So it made me feel kind of assured that we weren't insane to try to make a movie that only had humans in it.
When you think back on the making of The Incredibles, how radically did anything change in that film? Because I know that with animation and at Pixar, things can go through huge changes.
Sure.
Do you remember, like, did the film go through any massive change?
Not massive. One thing that was an exercise that yielded good results was they said, what would happen if the audience doesn't, if you open the movie with them in their normal guise, not as superheroes, and they're trying to fit in, and then you reveal that they're superheroes. And I kind of argued with this a little bit. I said, look, you're going to have ads at that point. Everyone knows that the characters are going to be superheroes, so what are we doing? And they said, no, it's a good exercise. Try it. So I created this, I wrote this opening that had them just going underground. So Violet was a baby, and they were just going underground under the witness protection program. And then they kind of get discovered. And part of the thing is villains were trying to find them in civilian, to wreak revenge on them. So I had this villain show up. It was Syndrome, and he died in the opening sequence, so everyone, including me, liked him better than the villain I had, and so they went back to my original pitch, which was show them in the golden era and then jump 15 years and show them unfulfilled, and but with that character driving the villain plot. And there was this autobiography of Burt Ward, who played Robin on the TV 60s version of Batman. And he kind of said, "I've got more chicks than Adam West," you know, and I sensed some kind of dark, like, resentment, you know, from the boy wonder, you know. And I thought, that's a good angle for a villain, is to be kind of spurned at being a sidekick. So that, even though I didn't use that opening, I got the villain and I got a good reason for the villain out of it. Everything else kind of stayed much the same, but the villain changed and he was much better villain.
Coming from traditional animation and features like The Iron Giant, how did you adapt your directing style to Pixar's more collaborative, brain trust-driven process?
Well, you know, you get it. If you argue against notes, you get a reputation as being difficult. And the thing is they were shocked when I took notes. They were like, "He took the notes." Like, he didn't mind the notes. I don't mind notes if they're not stupid. They're like, "Okay, yeah, bring it." But if you want me to do something that I think is stupid, I'm going to speak up, you know? So the notes that came out of the Brain Trust, a lot of them were really smart notes by people who have been in my position or are writers or something, problem solving in that arena. And so I didn't have, it was good to go through that process. And when I moved up from LA from Iron Giant, a lot of people on the crew were like, "Man, you're selling out to computer animation." And I said, "I'm not going up there to be part of computer animation. I'm going up there because they protect stories. They make an environment where you can grow a good story. And they poke at it, they demand something out of it, but it's good, healthy, you know, stuff." And I don't know, does that answer your question?
100%.
Okay.
So now I want to bring up one of my all-time favorites.
Well, again, I was trying to do 1906, and it just was, the more I tried to do it, the more it was too big. And finally, I realized that, you know, I don't want my headstone to be, "He tried to make 1906, you know. So I looked around for things to do that were already kind of ready to go. And Tom Cruise had seen Incredibles and invited me over to his house, and we had this amazing 2-hour, 3-hour talk just about movies. And his knowledge is extensive. And we had a very good time, and he said, "Look, if you ever want to do live action, I'd love to do something with you." So that popped up. And of all the things, you know, I love spy movies. And that was a chance to do a spy movie with Tom Cruise. So how do you say no to that?
What was your reaction when you're filming and Tom is doing, like, the stunts? And, I mean, they're insane what he does. He's an amazing actor. But
one of one.
Yeah. What was it like for you, though, when he's doing some of that stuff? Because it has to be scary.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing it and we were prepping it, and he was practicing being on the building with this climbing expert who was out there. And we were just kind of hanging around and talking while he's out there. And suddenly I hear, "Woo!" And I see him go outside the window swinging past, and then I hear a crash. Like, and I'm like, "No, he's dead, the star is dead." And then I hear him laughing. Like, like that was, you know, I screwed that one up, you know. And it was, so we were filming that stuff. We were originally thinking we might only get a few shots in IMAX. Like maybe 2 or 3, and we'll just do the rest with special effects. So we had to bash out these giant windows, double pane windows. And they were like, okay, but only 3, and you got to put them back exactly like they were. And we're like, okay, we'll do it. So we start doing it, and we could probably get that shot over here. And pretty soon, it's 37 windows we shot. And we shot everything on the building. The only ones we didn't do on the buildings were ones that were looking up, because you can do that on a piece of anything. But anything that's wide or looking down or anything like that, all that stuff is real. And it was, we were filming it. There was one time we were filming it and I was dead asleep in my hotel. It's like 4 in the morning, and suddenly I go, and I realized my star is swinging around on this little wire a mile up into the air, and what am I doing? This is insane. But he's the producer, so you can't tell him no.
Jumping into your newest project called Ray Gun. So for people who are just hearing about Ray Gun for the first time here at Comic-Con, what do you want to tell people about the movie?
Well, the elevator pitch would be it's Buck Rogers meets the Maltese Falcon. So it's desperate characters in sort of an alternate future. And this stuff is kind of hard to explain, especially because it's a mystery. You don't want to give anything up. Why don't we just show the first 7 minutes?
Woo! You're the director. I guess we'll show the first 7 minutes.
Ay, papaya de Celaya. Ay, papantla, tus hijos vuelan. Vámonos, perras.
Making movies is you get to work with a lot of creative people. So when you had this premise, there were a lot of ideas about how to flesh out the city and the environment, because the whole movie pretty much takes place in the city. It's an urban movie, even though it's a sci-fi fantasy thing, it's also urban. And so there was a lot of thoughts, and the amount of real estate you have in a movie is like this, but the world is like that. So you end up being able to populate all kinds of ideas. And I think that you can look at the characters and where we want you to look, but you can also let your eye drift, and there's going to be something for it. Yeah. So.
We do have another video question. It's from, I believe, someone named Michael.
Yeah! Michael!
I want to hear it from your mouth. I want to hear it right from your mouth. Hey, everyone.
Woo!
How great is that guy?
Yeah!
So the very first drawings I did were very crude, but they were meant to be viewed in order. And so I figured out much later that I was trying to make movies really early, and I just didn't have the equipment or ability to do it. And but my family was a movie-going family. They liked to go to movies and discuss movies afterwards. And I remember my parents talking about Hitchcock, and they're like, why were Hitchcock's films better? So that was the first time I heard a director discuss. And
Gotta get closer.
Into the mic.
oh, this way.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, we were a movie family. We saw movies, and I loved movies always.
So those drawings you did, were they like storyboards, or was it actually an animated sequence?
They were the crudest. They were not anything special drawing-wise. Circle for the head, line for mouth, dots for eyes. But the thing that was unique about them was they were meant to be seen in a certain order, and I would tell the story, and I would pull the thing, pages like that. You go,
And it seems like, though, the most important thing is your parents encouraged you. There was something you wanted
They
to do.
took me to
and they
see a
backed
movie
you.
more than once, which my grandparents thought was really indulgent. But my mom was like, he's getting something out of it. And when I was 11, I saw The Jungle Book here in San Diego, actually. And that made me go, how do I do that? Because it seemed, you'd see, my parents would have parties, and there would be a bunch of forced my parents, Spanish Inquisition. So my parents would have parties, and I remember the Forest of Legs, and people kind of going, like, I don't want to become one of those lumbering things, you know. And then I heard a comedy album, which was Jonathan Winters being funny, and here was an adult who was being completely bonkers and being accepted. And then I saw Jungle Book, and I realized people are being paid to figure out how a panther moves. A stuffy panther, and I went, wow, growing up is actually going to be really great. You know, let me at it.
Okay, so now tell us about Incredibles 3.
Thank you for asking that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It's directed by the guy who did the voice of Emile in Ratatouille, and he's a super talented guy named Pete Sohn. And he's going to do an amazing job, and I'm writing it with a co-writer, and I'm producing it also, co-producing it. So I'm involved, and I'm excited about it.
Who's doing the music?
It's actually the ghost of Jerry Goldsmith.
You're in much better hands then.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you doing?
I'm open.
All right, well, we'll talk about it.
All right, we'll talk.
So I am so curious though what your shorthand is between the two of you in terms of like writing music or in terms of music for a movie. So maybe you could talk about what it was like doing Ray Gun, and you know, how early on did you hear about this project? How early on were you thinking about the score, and what is that collaboration like?
Oh man, I heard about this in 2003. So we were working on The Incredibles, and we were just talking about, what are the things you want to work on? What do you got coming up? This and that. And he ran down a litany of things, and one of them was Ray Gun. And I heard the story about how, you know, he tried to make it and it couldn't get done. And he's like, I hope one day that's a movie that we're going to be able to make. And so that's been living in my head since then, you know. And so when you do that, your head is sort of like, your brain just sort of slowly works on it in the background. But for me, when I come into a movie, and especially with Brad, what I love to do is just find out, okay, who are these characters? Who are these people? What do they need? What do they want? I don't ever, for instance, for this movie, it wasn't about sitting down and writing a detective score. It was about writing a score for Ray. Like, who's Ray? And what does he need? And what does he want? What does he not get? You know, he's got this really kind of messed up life in a lot of ways. And how do we then reflect that? And then that's how I begin writing music, understanding that. Because if I can get into the emotional space of a character, feel what it is that they're feeling, then I can do something.
Yeah, and that's how we talk about it. We talk about story.
Yeah,
We don't talk about music per se. I mean, I usually collect a bunch of things that seem kind of like what I'm looking for, but it's a variety of things, and I just kind of put the pile at him, and he listens to it, and then he puts it away. And whatever residue sticks, and he goes into it and creates the soundscape. But we end up talking about story a lot, and his notes on story are always good notes. They're smart. So I like talking to him about things early.
So one of the things when I was looking through the credits of the film, I noticed Ben Burtt's name. And which, if anyone's familiar with Star Wars, look him up.
The first one.
Yeah, exactly. But also, you have like a all-star lineup of people that worked on this movie. Can you sort of mention the various people that you pulled in to do this? It's almost like they wanted to work with you.
Well, a lot of them have worked on the other films, so you know, when you do this stuff, you end up being really impressed by a lot of people, and those are the people you want to keep close and kind of keep adding to their numbers. So Pete Sohn, who his first film that he worked on was Iron Giant, and he did a lot of storyboarding and animation in Incredibles. He did storyboarding and animation in Incredibles 2. He boarded the sequence with Jack chasing the raccoon. He did the kiss in Incredibles where Bob and Helen kiss, which was, believe it or not, technically really complicated at the time, and made it this beautiful emotional scene. So he's a multi-talent. He is one of the people. I had Tony Fucilli, who worked on everything, in design, ran animation, Iron Giant, Incredibles, blah, blah, blah. He's involved in Ray, and he's involved in Incredibles 3. And, you know, this guy, and it's a lot of people that have worked on other things and done amazing work. And we had an amazing group of storyboard artists, some of which were now directing, but they wanted to do a sequence or something in the film. So they were constantly coming in, and I had this murderer's row of storyboard artists doing this amazing work. Yeah, so it was really gratifying.
That's what I'm trying to point out. It's like almost, like I said, I think everyone wanted to work with you. It's been a little while since you've made a film.
Too long.
Yeah, but it's, whenever Brad makes a movie, there's a line of people that want to make it with him. He is one of the best sort of leaders, one of the best creative leaders that I know that I have worked with. And there's nobody like him, nobody I know that can just get an entire room full of people just like this to charge up a hill right behind him without even, they just trust, okay, if that's where he wants to go, we go. And that's everything. Let's go, everybody, let's go!
Woo!
We're marching up the hill. What hill is this? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Turkey Hill ice cream, I think.
So noir has such a specific musical vocabulary. How much did you want it to honor that versus subvert it for a world with aliens and multimedia stars in it?
I think we did both, didn't we?
Yes, it's really mixed. It's got everything. It's got like 50s sci-fi in it. It's got very like 30s, 40s noir in it. It's got some slight jazz, and yet, you know, my biggest concern was like, I did not want it to feel like The Incredibles. I wanted it to be different, stand apart. That's very important for me, working on things, and again, why I love working with Brad, because everything he does is like a hard left turn into some other area that he hasn't explored yet. So that's exciting for anyone who gets to work on the film, because then you're trying out your new muscles. So I think that this film is really, at its core, a very emotional score, but it's got a lot of action, a lot of fun, and hopefully it feels like its own thing.
So one of the things that I'm so impressed by.
This is kind of true of all animated films, but if you have a voice that you think might work, you get clips of it from various things, and then you put it to images of the character. You have the character, and it's not animation, it's just still images, but you're seeing how the voice plays with that face. And when I was pitching Patton for Ratatouille, he had this very funny thing where he goes to Outback Steakhouse, and he was so, you know, completely emotional about food. And we had all these things of Remy, you know, gesturing and making faces from various storyboards, and we kind of cut them to generally fit the attitude that he had in the bit. So you were hearing him, you were seeing Remy, and seeing, does that voice sound good coming out of that body? And it was perfect. So that's what you do. And we had clips of Sam. I mean, we all loved Sam's work. It's not like he's unknown. But the same with Scarlett. And it was just, you know, perfect. Done deal.
So one of the things about, you know, actually, I'm really curious.
Tom Waits.
Ira.
Yeah. Tom Waits, come on.
Ira is the alien that you see in the scene, you know, when they're doing the deaths.
Yeah.
Now she's work pro bono.
Yeah.
And by the way, for people, who do you voice in this?
There's a couple of characters. You don't need to, hopefully you won't get pulled out of it.
I actually think people like when you voice characters. Would you like to?
Edna!
I don't do that voice.
So, I'm so curious, when you finally saw the finished version of this,
I know.
did it compare to that thing that you've been imagining for so long?
Well, it was different because for the longest time I wanted to do it as hand-drawn feature, and I still think it would have been great that way. But I have no objection. I love working in CG as well, and there are things that you can do in CG that are more difficult in hand-drawn animation. But we had an aggressive schedule. The studio that was originally going to do it in Spain wasn't able to do it because of pipeline issues. So we went to a studio in Montreal called Cinesite, and they really, we put the bar pretty high, and they were not intimidated by it. They did a great job. So I'm happy that it's a big movie. It's got size to it, and it was a lot of choices had to be made, and they had to be made pretty quickly. And it doesn't look like we cut any corners. We worked our butts off to get it all on the screen. But I'm really happy that it is big and it's unusual for animation, I think.
There's a few things, and one big thing that keeps getting closer and closer to that start line. It takes a long time to get these things up on their feet and going, but it keeps inching closer, and it's getting so close. So hopefully very, very soon. Hopefully very soon. But in the meantime, you can go and see Spider-Man Brand New Day. Coming out soon.
Yeah, I know what I want to do, but I'm not ready to talk about it. And it's a thing that we've talked about doing before, and it's live action, but there's animation in it. Yeah.
This is the thing you're writing right now.
Yes.